let me say in our previous classes, since we've already had two. The first one, which was of course the introduction, then the second one we started to look at we defined first of all what project management is, and then we also looked at what a project is. Now today I want us to continue, and we will start by looking at what is known as project planning, or simply planning. So I'm sure most of us already have heard about this word called planning, and I'm sure we already know what planning simply means. So just to put it in context or in words, when we talk about a plan, we're just simply talking about more like a road map, okay? Like we are developing a roadmap that we want to follow in order for us to be able to reach a certain place, destination, or outcome. So now, when it comes to projects, a project is something that requires planning. If you recall, in our second class, we talked about a project life cycle. We said the first stage in every project is that you first have to come up with an idea. Okay, you brainstorm this idea that you have come up with. Maybe it's a solution to a certain problem, and so on and so forth. And then after that is done, the second thing that you have to do is you have to now start developing a roadmap. Okay, you develop a roadmap, you come up with strategies, things that will be required in order for you to be able to implement that given idea or initiative. And at that point, we said that is where we make a plan for the project. All right. So planning. Planning can be defined as a process of thinking carefully about something we want to do in the future and deciding exactly how we'll do it, considering all possible problems. Under nature of the project, if you remember, you recall, we talked about how each project, okay, that you endeavor to implement always has got uncertainties, isn't it? And then we said a good project manager should always ensure that he tries to look at all angles of things or factors that might be able to affect a given project. That way, when you are implementing your project and your project comes across certain factors or uncertainties that tries to hinder it, the project manager won't be caught unaware. And as he is considering all these negative outcomes that might affect the implementation of a project, isn't it? You might also he or she must also make sure that he also outlines the steps, okay, or actions that they'll be able to take in order to overcome those uncertainties, factors, or challenges. So I'm just trying to reiterate at this last sentence here. If you allow me, let me just try to underline it. Okay. All right. So I've underlined this part down here, which I'm trying to iterate on, where it says considering all possible problems. So in a nutshell, that's exactly what planning is. So planning, again, in other terms, can be considered as a process of setting goals, developing strategies, outlining tasks and schedules for accomplishing the goals. Okay, so you have this goal that you want to achieve. Now you have to be able to find out what strategies can I be able to put in place to ensure that as I am implementing this project, I end up accomplishing this goal. Apart from that, you also have to come up with what activities, what tasks are supposed to be involved for me to be able to implement this given project. Of course, we have got different categories of projects, different types of projects that require all sorts of different types of activities. We might give an example, maybe let's say a project under the category of construction. And then we might say maybe this project involves constructing a gym. So that gym that we are constructing, of course, it will need the foundation and then it will also need a slab. So you can say foundation digging is one of the activities. Slab laying is also an activity. And yeah, so those activities will be outlined. And then you also have to look at maybe let's say strategies that will help you achieve those activities. Maybe let's say you are in an area where there is a lot of rocks. Okay, it is a rocky or stony, it's a stony ground or stony area. So in that stone area, it will require a specific or a special type of foundation or even set of tools for you to be able to dig a foundation. And so all of these should be put or should be shown in the plan that you are developing so that you can be able to accomplish the goal of building a house. Another thing can be a schedule where you just get to attach time for each activity. You say, okay, so this house that we are building it in a given time frame. Maybe the time frame might be 3 months. And then you would say, okay, so in these 3 months, we are going to divide the phases into 3 phases. So the first phase will simply be maybe laying of a foundation, and the laying of the foundation will take us 1 month. Okay, so that's a schedule. It's like a time within the framework. And then after this is done, the second phase will begin, and the second phase will also give it 1 month. Okay, all right, and so on and so forth. All right. Now, as we have explained, planning is very vital and it plays an important role in the management process of a project. So, of course, the major role that planning plays is simply controlling, but this can be disintegrated into four paths or categories. So the first one is planning helps to set the direction. Like I said at first, a plan is like a roadmap. Okay, you are drafting a roadmap that you are going to follow in order for you to achieve an intended outcome or for you to reach the destination that you want to reach. So planning helps us to decide where we want to go and how best we will go about it. What route we'll take, what resources will be required, how much of those resources will be required. The second one is planning helps inspire effort of the people that you are working with, or in short, it helps in leadership. So, in a situation where you already have got a plan in place, isn't it? It will be very easy for you to know how well you are progressing as you are implementing a given project. And as you are progressing, when people are able to, compare what they are doing and what is on the plan, and they're able to see to say, okay, what we are doing, we are really progressing. It gives them a form of motivation that indeed we are doing something and we are on the right track and on the right path. As a result, you discover that it ends up also giving or inspiring more effort among those given people. Now, of course, this shouldn't just be the only thing to consider, because sometimes when people get to see that they are moving well, they get to be relaxed, they get to be lazy, and sometimes you might discover that productivity begins to decline. So you discover that apart from planning, setting the direction, and also helping in leading or inspiring effort, it also is an important tool that helps in controlling, okay, to ensure that results are met, or to ensure that the same effort is continually being fed into the implementation of that project. And this usually happens during the monitoring stage of a project, because under monitoring stage of the project, under the project life cycle, we said the project manager or the supervisor or supervisors, they are trying to compare what's been done on site and what is in the plan. Are these two things reconciling? Are these two things starring together? Okay, and then when they see that, okay, maybe what is being done on the ground is not what was in the plan, then they will have to start making some adjustments, okay, so that things are able to catch up with what was intended for them to be, or the works that have been done, or the activities that have been done are being conducted according to the same standard, or the same pace, or maybe speed that was intended for them in the plan. So the process of being able to make adjustments in order to correct errors, okay, is what is known as controlling. All right, so that's the third role that planning plays when it comes to controlling in management. And then last but not the least is simply the organization, okay, or organizing. So the entire site, work site where you are working on a project, if you have a plan, it will also help you create some form of structure, okay, or hierarchy of how things will be. Remember, I think it should be in the first class where we talked about how a project manager is responsible in giving out roles to various people that will be working on a given project. And I believe this goes hand in hand with the part where the project manager is coming up with the activities that will be required in a given project. So like we like the same example we are using of construction, so you know to say, okay, so in this construction we are not going to look for someone who's into what, maybe let's say someone who is into manufacturing of drinks, or maybe cakes or food, isn't it? They won't be that important to this given project. However, since it's a construction project, we need someone who knows how to lay slab, how to dig, someone who knows how to what's this, plastering, bricklaying. Maybe you also need these guys that know how to survey the land, surveyors. You need people that know how to put the electrical cables, plumbing, and so on and so forth. So as you list the activities that are required, you will also know who is needed on the job, and you give them that specific role based on their skills and what they will be able to contribute towards the implementation of this given project. And then all in all, it helps you create a proper structure, okay, where you have assigned roles to the people that will be required to do particular tasks and activities. So all in all, those are the 4 roles that planning plays in controlling of the management process of a given project. And apart from that, planning also helps or gives 4 benefits towards project management and implementation. The first one is that planning helps focus, and also flexibility. So by right, so the thing about planning is that it helps you identify things that are necessary, so that even as you are implementing the project at any stage, you know to say, okay, at this stage only these things are necessary. Okay, and you get to be more focused, as opposed to focusing, as opposed to doing things anyhow, or trying to achieve things that are not intended for that specific period. And that is what is known as focus. Okay, and then apart from that, it also helps flexibility. How? If you remember, we talked about how a project manager should always have got like plan A and also plan B in case plan A fails to work out. Okay, so that is known as flexibility, being flexible. So that's one of the first benefits that planning plays in project management. The second one is it helps improve action orientation. We have already discussed this one, but I'll again iterate just a bit on it. So under action orientation, we said when you have a plan in place and then the implementation of the project has begun or it has started, it will help you know how how far you are going or progressing, or it will help you know if you are progressing in the first place. Therefore, once the people that are working on the project are able to see that indeed they are progressing and they are doing something, or it on its own it becomes a motivation to those individuals or people who are implementing or working under that given project. Therefore, planning improves action orientation. Okay, and then the fourth benefit of planning under project management is that it helps improve coordination and control. All right, so we are just illustrating all of this. We have already discussed them under the role that planning plays in project management. So under coordination here, we said whenever you have a plan in place, okay, and then you are monitoring what's happening on the ground under implementation, you can be able to compare, okay, and see if what is being implemented is according to what is in the plan. And if you see there's an error or there's a mismatch, you can be able to come in as a project manager and take actions or required courses of actions to be able to rectify that error or mismatch, so that things can begin to flow according to what was intended in the plan. And that process is what is known as control and coordination. Okay, and then also allocating people in positions where they are supposed to be, ensuring that everyone is being directed, and if someone goes out of the way, they are being corrected. All of that is called coordination, and how you correct people, how you position them, assigning them roles, all of that is contained in the plan. Then the last and not the least is that planning helps improve time management. Okay, so since time already gives us or helps us to focus, it improves action orientation, and then it also helps us to coordinate and control. It automatically shows that with a plan in place, it will help you also improve time management. Why? Because you are able to, maybe let's say under coordination and control, you are able to come in case you see that things are not going the way they should be, or they are not moving at the speed that they are supposed to be moving. You are able to come in, you're able to take some appropriate courses of actions to ensure that you're able to rectify the mismatches that is happening between what is being implemented on the ground and what was intended in the plan. Okay, apart from that, it is also, you are also, through that same plan, you are also providing inspiration over action orientation. for the people that are working under that given project. And then also a focus and flexibility, helping you to navigate through the uncertainties that you might come across as you are implementing that given project. Right, so those are the four benefits of planning. And when we talk about purpose of planning, I believe it is just one and the same. So this is where we shall end for today's class. Then when we meet next time, we shall continue with which is tomorrow, isn't it? We shall continue with questions of planning. So this part which I have skipped is simply just they're just reiterating or repeating the same things that we have already talked about, which is the role that planning plays in management. Okay, so if you can see here under the purpose of planning, they have talked about how it provides a tool for monitoring and evaluation of program or project. We've already talked about how it ensures aims and results and time from problem clear and understood by stakeholders involved. Okay, we already discussed all of this. So just skip this chapter, and then when we come next time, we shall continue with questions of planning, or the questions that you're supposed to ask yourself as you make a plan for a given project.